Hi everybody, today we're going to learn about nonfiction text structures and the different types that authors may use when communicating a message to their reader. So, text structure is how an author presents his or her ideas. Depending on their purpose for writing and their message, authors may choose a structure that fits with what they're trying to communicate. There are many different types of text structures, even more than are listed here. But the ones that we're going to focus on for now are chronological order, sequence, cause and effect, problem and solution, compare and contrast, description, spatial, classification, and proposition and support. So chronological order, which is a word we've already heard this year, is just known as time order. We've seen this phrase when we learned about objective summary. And as we know, we use transition words to relay the message in a particular order. So some signal words that it's being written in chronological order. You might see something like first, second, third, later, next, before, then, finally. So if it's in time order and it's using some of those signal words, that means it might be written in the text structure called chronological order. Sequence is very, very similar to chronological order. It even has a lot of the same signal words or transition phrases. But it does present a structure in time order, but it's usually only for texts that require steps. Like if it were a recipe or an instruction manual, those require steps. It might say something like, first, put a cup of flour in a bowl. Then, add a half a cup of sugar. So chronological order is different from this because chronological order is used when telling a story, whereas sequencing is used when giving instructions. In cause and effect, the author is presenting something and then the effect that it has on something else. This very clearly has to do with time because if something causes something else, whatever it happened has to happen first. So like let's say you spill a glass of water, the floor will be wet. The floor couldn't have gotten wet without that glass of water spilling. So clearly first the water had to be spilled. Then the effect was that the floor was wet. So a lot of times there's more than one cause or more than one effect. On the screen right now, it's showing one cause with many effects, but you could also have many causes for one effect. For example, poor grades, that might be the effect of many factors like not studying, not focusing, ignoring all of my reminders to read your feedback and make corrections. So cause and effect, you're going to see signal words like if this, then this. You're going to see things like reasons why. There are many reasons why, blah, blah, blah. You're going to see things like as a result, therefore, or consequently, stuff like that. This led to. Now, problem solution is just that. It's when the author presents the reader with a problem or an issue and also presents the readers with what they think is a solution. Don't confuse this with cause and effect. They are similar if you think about them. The problem and the solution could be similar to the cause and the effect, but the biggest difference is the solution part. When the author gives you a problem and then tells you like the effect that it's having, that's just cause and effect. But when the author gives you a problem and says, here's how to fix it, then it's problem solution. Compare and contrast. In this structure, the author discusses the similarities and the differences between two or more topics. The purpose of this text structure is sometimes to present the reader with choices to make their own decisions or to show why one thing is better than another or why one thing is different from another thing. Now, this can get into having a bias. We're going to talk about that another day, though. Signal words for comparing and contrasting. You're going to see things like however, nevertheless, on the other hand, similarly, in comparison, stuff like that. In this text structure, very simply put, it's when an author describes something. And so that's why it's called description. By doing this, when an author is doing some description, The whole point is so that the reader can visualize something and better understand what the author is trying to communicate about it. So they might be listing characteristics of something. They might say things like, in order to illustrate this, or for example, something like that. They're just describing something. It's very descriptive writing. Spatial. Now, although this is very similar to the last slide description, spatial is also used to describe something, but in an area. Think of the word space. It's in a space or an area. So if you were going to describe something in a particular room, and the author wanted to help you visualize that space, then it would be spatial. So if we were going to explain our classroom, you might say, first you walk in, then you see a bunch of orange chairs. If you look to the left, there's the smartboard. On the far wall is a row of windows with some bookcases in the corner. Then there's the pun wall or whatever. So it is description, but it's description of a space. So it's spatial text structure. If you wrote down that was description, it would be marked wrong. This was a new one that I don't know that you guys have done before, because the other ones I think you've learned about in other grades. Classification is often new for 7th graders. It's when an author is classifying different types of something. It's to show how those things relate to each other. You often see classification in science class. So you might classify matter into solids, liquids, and gases. Something like that. Well, authors classify things in their own writing as well. So an author that is writing about dogs, that would be a category, might tell you that there are different types of dogs: golden retrievers, bulldogs, Dalmatians, whatever. All right? Or if an author is talking about the category of candy, they might list different types of candy: Skittles, Snickers, Kit Kats, etc. Remember, the purpose here is to not just list a bunch of different types of things, but it's to explain the relationship between those types of things. Proposition and support, I also think, is a new text structure to you. You have written in this text structure many times, even though you might not have known it. This is when you make a claim and you support it with details or support it with facts. We've done a lot of this type of writing this year, and you've done it, in the last few years as well. It's argumentative writing or persuasive writing or just answering a question and defending how you know it. So if you've had to write like this a lot, if you are reading an article, it's when the author makes a claim and then supports it with reasons and evidence. Usually the reason for this is because the writer wants to persuade the reader and wants you to understand their opinion. That's why they use support to back up their statement, so that you would get on board with them and see things from their point of view. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples of the same exact sentence, "Goosebumps make me shiver," being used for several different text structures. If I was going to write a story about this in chronological order, it would say, "Goosebumps make me shiver. First, I get cold. Then I shake all over." If it was going to be cause and effect, remember, this is where you have to show why something happened and the effect of it. Goosebumps make me shiver. When the temperature drops below 45 degrees, my skin crinkles into goosebumps. So do you see the cause there? The cause is it's being cold. The effect, I get goosebumps because it was cold. Problem and solution. Goosebumps make me shiver, but they disappear as soon as I cover up with a jacket or a sweater. Do you see how similar that is to cause and effect? Because this sentence does have a cause and an effect. The reason why it's different and that I consider a problem and solution is because it's solving the problem, not just saying what the effect was. So the problem is that you have goosebumps. The solution, put on a sweater. Compare and contrast. Goosebumps make me shiver. Some people get goosebumps from fear. Others get goosebumps when they are touched emotionally. So I'm comparing two things and I'm showing how they're different. Or if I was going to go into some description, goosebumps make me shiver. I get little bumps on my skin that look like sesame seeds. I'm just describing, so that's considered description. All right, so the same thing that we did on this slide, I would like you to do on the next slide. And so the sentence this time is, the first day of school is always an interesting day. I want you to literally pause the video, and I want you to, in your head, try to come up with how would that look if it were in chronological order? How would it look if this had some cause and effect? Problem and solution, compare and contrast, description, or spatial. When you're done doing this, and this is going to take a couple minutes of having the video pause, then push play and I'll show you the answers that I came up with on the next slide. Okay, so now you are done and you've made up your sentences in your head for this. Here are the ones that I came up with. See if yours were similar. Chronological. The first day of school is always an interesting day. First, we get to know our teacher. Next, we play get to know you activities. And finally, we meet our principal. So that's chronological because it's going in order. Cause and effect. The first day of school is always an interesting day. I always get goosebumps, there's that word again, when I walk into the school for the first time that year. So the effect is that you get goosebumps. The cause, because it's the first day. Problem and solution. The first day of school is always an interesting day. I'm always nervous to meet my new teachers, but as soon as I see the familiar faces of my friends, the nerves disappear. So the problem is you're nervous. The solution is your friends help calm you down. Compare and contrast. First day of school is always an interesting day. Most people don't want summer to end. However, some miss their friends and are ready to go back. So I'm comparing some students with other students. Description. First day of school is always an interesting day. Every year my mom makes me pancakes with gooey chocolate chips in the shape of a smiley face. So it's just describing breakfast. All right. At this point, you are ready to get some independent practice. So in order to find the independent practice, it's listed under Tuesday because that's when it's due. And I don't know if you guys realized this. This might be something I'm going to show you right now. In the title of the assignment, if it says CW/HW, what that means is that it's classwork and then it becomes homework if you don't get it done. So I don't know if you ever knew that. So it obviously asks you to resave it with your last name, and it tells you to put it in your quarter 3 folder, and it tells you the due date is tomorrow. There's 2 different assignments, one just called text structure practice, one that's called text structure practice for honors, and then obviously the grading rubric. So I'm going to go over this one with you guys. It is independent. You are not supposed to work with a partner on this. If you would like to refer back to the PowerPoint lesson that I just went over so that you can remember what like preposition and support means and all of those other ones, you can click on this and have it open in a new tab. I'm going to give you some hints right now. Okay, it says reread Article 5 from the article. Reread paragraph 5. This is from the LICE article, and it's been copied below for you. So you're going to reread it, and then it says, what is the text structure most present in the passage above? Please use textual evidence to defend your response. What I'm looking for here is not a 2-word answer. I'm looking for a few sentences. So after you have reread this little paragraph, you're not just going to say, oh, it's description, or oh, it's problem solution, or oh, it's whatever, cause and effect. You're going to say, in the paragraph above, the text structure most present is blah, blah, blah. The reason why blah, blah, blah is the text structure most present is because it does this and it does this. For example, the paragraph says blah, 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 blah. You are going to need to use textual evidence from this paragraph in your answer down here. So if you say that it's, chronological order, you better have some textual evidence that proves that it's chronological order. Same with this one, but note, in this one it says reread paragraph 2, which has been copied below for you, so you would reread it. In this one, it tells you the answer already. It says the text above is structured in a problem solution format. Using textual evidence, please explain how we know this text has a problem solution structure. This is not the right answer. It's a problem solution structure because it presents a problem and then it presents the solution. If that's what you write, then you're going to get it wrong. You need to say the text above is a problem solution structure because it presents one problem. For example, the problem is blah, 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 blah. Later, the paragraph presents the solution. For example, the solution is blah, 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 blah. Therefore, it's structured in a problem solution format. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. Thank you so much. And when you're finished, make sure you submit it on Schoology.